Society's Patient Education magazine in Hindi, Madhumay Wani, and he was organizing secretary of ASICAN 2013 in Bhopal, which we really enjoyed. Thank you, sir, and over to you.
Thank you, Naren, and welcome everybody. Today we are going to discuss a very interesting topic. As you know, the series going on gender differences in various endocrine disorders on ESI webinar. So today's topic, which has been allotted to me, is slightly difficult: cardiometabolic issues and gender differences. So these are going to be my outline or agenda. I'll talk about introduction to the topic, then gender differences in epidemiology of the cardiometabolic disorders, gender differences in stratification of the risk in cardiometabolic disorders, particularly for CVD, and gender differences in the treatment outcomes for cardiometabolic disorders. And lastly, I'll summarize it. So in introduction, let's first understand what is cardiometabolic syndrome. It's more or less same thing we are talking about, which is metabolic syndrome or sometimes insulin resistant syndrome. So the basic concept is something is wrong with insulin resistance, which is going to give rise to certain other things. So the mother of all metabolic disorders is supposed to be insulin resistance here. So the cardiometabolic syndrome is a constellation of metabolic dysfunctions characterized by insulin resistance, dysglycemia, which include either prediabetes or overt diabetes, atherogenic dyslipidemia, hypertension, intra-abdominal obesity or adiposity, and this constellation leads to increased risk of cardiovascular diseases. Now, CMS or cardiometabolic syndrome is now recognized as a disease entity both by WHO as well as American Society of Endocrinology. Now, there's some difference here that cardiometabolic diseases or disorders are these CVD arising out of cardiometabolic syndrome. So, whatever diseases which will arise out of this constellation of various risk factors is known as cardiometabolic diseases, and they are like coronary artery disease, heart failure, atrial fibrillation, or stroke. Now, it's known that people with cardiometabolic syndrome are 2 times more likely to die because of coronary artery disease and 3 times more likely to have either MI or stroke. So this diagnosing and managing this syndrome becomes very significant and important to prevent various almost, I'll say, deadly disorders which can prove fatal. And prevalence of common cardiometabolic disorders such as heart failure, atrial fibrillation, and coronary artery disease, their prevalence rates are different in different sexes and also in different types of comorbidities and also at different ages, particularly when we look into premenopausal and postmenopausal women. And we suppose that sex hormones and sex-specific molecular mechanism influence the glucose, lipid metabolism, as well as the cardiac and endothelial metabolic functions. And these may be the root cause of certain differences we see in the outcome of this cardiometabolic syndrome. Now, what are the possible reasons for these gender differences which we observe? The different risk factor profile. Now we know that hypertension prevalence, the obesity prevalence, and different type of body composition between male and female, there are differences, and they are probably also having different type of lifestyle. The tobacco abuse may be different in the two genders, particularly in our country. Smoking habits, lipids may be different in two sexes. Then, in spite of these risk factors, their impact for producing cardiometabolic disorders like coronary artery disease or stroke, they may be different. Maybe that the dyslipidemia may have a greater impact on males as compared to females. And effect of sex hormones. This again is very important, and we know that estrogens have a protective role against the various the risk factors of the cardiometabolic disorders or the cardiovascular diseases. So there is a difference between the prevalence rates of cardiovascular diseases in the premenopausal and the postmenopausal woman. And there are also psychosocial issues. Now, men may be exposed to greater stress or may perceive this stress worse than the females. So, and there are so many other psychosocial issues which are also very important in causation of various cardiovascular diseases. And there may be differences in pharmacological response to the treatment. Now, this again we are going to discuss in coming slides, that uh, various drugs for prevention of CVD may act differently amongst the different sexes. And we know that molecular and genetic influences are there. Each and every cell in a female has extra X chromosome, and in males it has a Y chromosome. And this presence of a different set of genes on these chromosomes can influence the body's functions, body's metabolism, and their risk to develop cardiovascular diseases. Now, this is a slide which shows you that if you take a 19, 20-year-old male and a female, both having equal BMI and probably equal height, you'll see that the subcutaneous fat is, which is represented in this green, and this is an MRI cut taken at the level of waist. You can see it's much higher as compared to the male member. And if you take the red colored visceral fat, it's higher in the males as compared to the females. So there's a distinct difference between body composition, and then we know that this visceral fat, which is metabolically active, is responsible for many of these cardiovascular risks as well as insulin resistance. And then you take a same story, if you take a male diabetic of around 55, 60 years and same BMI and same height, female diabetic with the same BMI, you can again see that the visceral fat represented in this orange color is much more in males, and subcutaneous fat is much higher in the female. So there is a distinct difference between the body composition as far as the muscle mass, the fat mass, and among the fat, how much subcutaneous fat is present and how much visceral fat is present. So they are different in two genders. And then when you see the LDL cholesterol and the LDL particles, you will be surprised to know that they again are different in two genders. In infancy and adolescence, the LDL particles are large in both the genders. Males have LDL particles less large than the females. So in before, say, puberty story is like this. But in men during their life, the size of LDL particle becomes smaller and smaller. In females, it remains stable until menopause. And after the period of menopause, the LDL particles become smaller, and CV risk similarly increases to the equal to the risk of the men. So we know that smaller LDL particles are more likely to get oxidized and more likely to produce atherosclerosis. They smaller and denser and contain more cholesterol as compared to the larger particles which contain more triglycerides. So this becomes very important, that atherogenesis after the menopause is likely to increase. And then we have been always been told that probably the LDL cholesterol remains it's sort of a constant thing, but it's not true. And very surprisingly, we do not have any age specific cutoffs for LDL in the guidelines also. But it's known that after 20 years of age, the LDL levels progressively increase. This happens in both the sexes, but males increase more rapidly and reach a peak earlier than females, and female increase more rapidly only after they attain the near menopausal age. So after menopause, their LDL concentration is going to rise more steeply, and their peak of LDL cholesterol will happen something like 10 to 12 years later than the male's peak. And this will coincide with their highest risk of developing coronary artery disease or stroke. And so all the cardiovascular events, they are more likely to happen at least a decade later in females as compared to the males. And so this is also true that postmenopausal women are more likely to have cardiovascular diseases as compared to premenopausal women. Now, coming to differences in epidemiology of cardiometabolic disorders, so we all know that males are more likely to suffer from cardiovascular diseases as compared to females. And this is a large study which is from Taiwan, which has very recently been published in Medicine Journal. And here you can see that acute coronary syndrome. Now, these are all patients who already had atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease and they were on optimal treatment. And these broken lines, they are representing the male population, and the solid lines are representing the female population. So you can see, so over all the follow-up period, the males had a much higher, significantly higher incidence of acute coronary syndrome. And when you take the revascularization procedure, so any vascular procedure, again, males had much higher incidence of requirement for revascularization procedures. And when you take the strokes, again, story is similar, that males are at higher risk. And remember, these are patients who were not, neither diabetes was excluded or particularly included. So it's a general population type of a story. And when you take in the in-hospital mortality is also higher for the males. So for somehow, we know that there is a very strong gender difference between the males and females regarding all these coronary artery disease, requirement for revascularization, or the strokes, or the mortality also. And this is a paper published long back, 2004. And if you take coronary heart disease deaths, mortality, and you divide the population according to presence or absence of diabetes, and these broken lines are representing females and the solid line representing the males. This is without diabetes. So without diabetes, you can see there is a male preponderance for any MACE occurrence. And this is very significant, p-value being 0.001. But when you take the population who is suffering with diabetes, then what happens is all the advantages female have of having lesser incidence of prevalence of coronary artery disease, stroke, or any deaths because of coronary artery disease, a whole 3-point MACE. But the things get reversed. Either the whole advantage is gone, but rather at some point of time, there may be higher incidence of MACE in females as compared. So somehow, presence of diabetes mitigates all the advantages female have. So this includes premenopausal and postmenopausal women. So this is absolutely lost. The advantages are lost because of presence of diabetes. And same is true for major cardio. So sorry, we were talking about deaths here, mortality here, but here we are talking of the MACE. And you can see again, the story is almost same. There was a large difference when diabetes was not present between male and female, but whole advantage, the difference almost disappears when we take the population who is suffering with diabetes. And there are more studies, prevalence of cardiovascular disease in adults more than 20 years of age. And these data include coronary heart disease, heart failure, stroke, with or without hypertension. Now, here you can see the males are represented in blue bars and the females are represented in the red bars. So there's male preponderance here, but after menopause, after 50 years or around 60 years, the females almost get equal to male, or rather also surpasses the males in terms of the prevalence of various cardiovascular diseases. And as the age advances, the more and more females are getting or almost equal to or more than the males. So this premenopausal and postmenopausal difference gets very pronounced. And there's one study I could get hold of, which is about the Indian population. These are 2 bars for rural population in Gujarat and Andhra. Again, the blank bars are for males and the dark black bars are for the females, solid bars are for females. And you can see in urban India almost double the incidence. And but this is also true that many of our females are never brought to hospital for things like chest pain. And so this is may not be very good representation, but still what this is in a hospital based population survey, which says that females are more like less likely to suffer from uh, the cardiovascular diseases. And this cardiovascular mortality, we are representing cardiovascular mortality here, is much less as compared to males. So there is definite male preponderance whenever you look into the cardiovascular diseases. And this cartoon is a simple representation. Now, this dotted line represents the risk of uh, cardiovascular prevalence in the general population. And when we see men and women with diabetes, what happens to the risk is that any CVD event in females from the general the line for the general population is almost 2.5 times. In males, it's 2.3 times. So diabetes almost mitigates whatever advantage female had because of the premenopausal estrogens. Heart failure, again, as compared to the index line, it's 4.5 times higher in females and 2.5 times higher in males. We are talking about diabetic population. Coronary artery disease, same story. Myocardial infarction, same story. And coronary mortality, again, is the female is more. So I'm not saying that it's more in female, but I'm saying is that how many times it increases because of presence of diabetes in females as compared to male. It may be just 2 to 3 times higher in the male population, while it's 2.5 to 4.5 times more higher in the female population. So adverse effects of the diabetes on chances of having CVD affects females much higher than as compared to the male population. Now, gender differences in risk profile. Now, this again is important, that what may lead to different prevalences of cardiovascular diseases in males and females. One is that risk profile is different. And now, as we said, that mother of all cardiometabolic syndrome is of the cardiometabolic syndrome is insulin resistance. And if you see insulin resistance, you'll note that in the pre-pubertal years, females have higher insulin resistance, and these are all clamp studies done. And so, but after the attainment of puberty, the females have less insulin resistance as compared to males. So this is the uh, window in which you expect all the cardiovascular diseases. So here there's definite increase in the male. In the males, the insulin resistance is higher, and so we expect all the components of cardiovascular diseases are also likely to be higher in males as compared to females. Now, coming to obesity, again, if you see this graph, that is prevalence of BMI more than 30, in the pink bar is much higher as compared to female population in the male population. So female population represented in pink. So you can see that as the age advances beyond 30 years, the females are likely to be more obese as compared to the males. And similarly, if you take BMI more than 25, again at around 40 years, around approximately after menopause, there is a middle age spread, so-called, which increases the weight of females much higher than the males. And at the time of diagnosis of diabetes, there are so many studies available that if you consider BMI, the females tend to be heavier than males. So in terms of BMI, I'm talking that females have a higher BMI at the time of diagnosis, the upper a curve, as compared to the males, which are represented in the lower curve. So we can say that, and then this is the incidence of diabetes, that is slightly higher in males as compared to females. So type 2 diabetes has a slight male preponderance, and this is carried over right from the 30 years till 70 years. So males are more likely to suffer from type 2 diabetes, but it's not very significantly high. Now coming to another risk factor, that is dyslipidemia. Now we have all been saying that the cholesterol levels, there is no age specific cutoffs in the guidelines, but see here. So if you take total cholesterol for men, right from the age 20, there is constant progressive increase in the levels of the total cholesterol. It reaches a peak around 50 years of age, and then it tends to decline. But see what happens in females. They are having total cholesterol much lower than males till the age of menopause. But after menopause, they have much, much higher cholesterol levels as compared to men. And then coming to LDL cholesterol, the story is same, that LDL cholesterol again in females before menopause is less than in males. The males represented in blue line and the females in the red line. But after menopause, there is just reversal of the ratio, that is LDL cholesterol. And see from 100 to almost 125 or so. So there is a constant increase in, so, but we do not have any representation of this physiology of LDL cholesterol represented in our, when we see LDL values, particularly for threshold for treatment with statins or everything. So this is important to remember, that there is a progressive increase in LDL cholesterol, and this peaks, at least this peak is happening at 50 years, and this peak is happening at around 60 years. So there is a difference and the peaks of almost 10 years. And this is also responsible for the CV disease occurring at least 10 years later in females as compared to in males. And I have one Indian study also. This is from Jaipur, and they actually were using data from a corporate tertiary care center. And again, you can see that LDL cholesterol in males peaks around 40, 50 years, and in females at around 50 years in Indian population. And but there they did not consider the treatment working in a corporate hospital. Maybe this decline, maybe because of use of statins, because many of these patients may be getting statins. And same is true for total cholesterol, the peaks at different times, at least 10, 12 years later in females. But the difference in postmenopausal women is quite pronounced. And non-HDL cholesterol, again, story is same. Triglycerides, definitely, they tend to fall with age, and probably the estrogens, they push up triglycerides. And so the story is different for this. Now, this is very interesting, again, regarding the gender. Now, this is US National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey on adults. And so they did a survey for various risk factors for cardiovascular diseases in the population as a whole. And they kept collecting data from 2001 to 2016, and saw what are the secular trends in various risk factors. And you can see that systolic BP is higher in females as compared to male, but the trend is, and then smoking, sorry, it's higher in males as compared to females. And in smoking, the females are almost catching up with the males in the incidence of smoking, but definitely the incidence of smoking is coming down over the years. Total cholesterol, again, very large use of statins in United States. It's coming down, and but again, the story is the same. That is, the cholesterol's levels are higher in females as compared to males. HDL cholesterols remain constantly high in females, and there's actually at all ages, the HDL cholesterol level is much higher in females. The difference is approximately 15. 10 to 15. So this females have an advantage of having better HDL cholesterol as compared to males. And HbA1c, again, you can see there is a slightly higher prevalence of males as compared to females as far as diabetes goes. But you can see there is a constant rise in the HbA1c of the population. That means they are inching towards diabetes more than the previous years. When you split up these very data into various quintiles of ages like 20 to 34, 35 to 45, 50 to 64, and 65 to 70, and then you see what is happening over the when the age advances. Systolic BP, you can see males have higher systolic BP, but after menopause, females almost catch up with the males. And actually, at later age than 60s, you have actually females having more systolic blood pressure than the males. For BMI, as I said, females are slightly, these all dotted lines are for females. And so you can see that slightly higher BMI for females, but this difference gets more pronounced after menopause. There is a tendency to gain more weight after menopause in ladies. Smoking, you can see that from 40% has declined to almost 15 to 20% in US population. I think they are doing a good job for making people aware about the dangers of smoking. But you can see that females are almost catching up. And there's also, you can see that their decline here, maybe because many of these people are forced to stop smoking after they had an event of cardiovascular disease. Total cholesterol, you can see here in the younger age group, and there's males having slightly higher total cholesterol, but after menopause, it's females which have higher, after in the age of 50 to 64, the females tend to have higher cholesterol, total cholesterol, and this with advancing age, the difference gets worse and worse. So same is true with HDL. HDL remains persistently high in female throughout their life. And so there is a difference between male and female HDL. And HbA1c, you can see that from here to here, there's a constant rise in HbA1c, indicating that there is a greater prevalence of diabetes to come in few years. So here again, you can see that there's a male preponderance, but after menopause, almost same as the, but here again, there is some difference. Now, there are certain risk factors which are very peculiar to females only. Now, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Now, this is supposed to be one of the commonest endocrine disorder in the female population now. Now, this increases the risk of cardiovascular disease. This also increases the risk for hypertension. This also increases risk for developing diabetes in future. Again, very closely related to insulin resistance. And if a lady suffers from ovarian insufficiency, both cardiovascular disease and CHD risk are increased, but nothing about the type 2 diabetes risk is not increased. So any woman who develops menopause before the age of 40 years may be at risk of CVD, and possible we should give her estrogen protection. Pregnancy-induced hypertension, if some lady develops gestational hypertension, again, she is almost equally at risk of developing CVD, coronary heart disease, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, as is happening in gestational diabetes. So these both things go hand in hand. And so whenever, and same is true with the preeclampsia also, that these three conditions are again closely related, and they can produce worsening of risk for all the risk factors for cardiovascular disease. And preterm labor again shows that there is increased risk of cardiovascular disease in future with these ladies who give birth to preterm babies, and even the type 2 diabetes risk is increased. Now we are talking of female specific risk factor, but there is some male specific risk factors also. Now more and more literature is available regarding ED, erectile dysfunction leading to cardiovascular disease. So this, remember that this is very peculiar to males. These are very peculiar to females. Now we have again some comparative study between diabetic and non-diabetic population, and the impact of various risk factors, how they are going to affect male and female differently. Now, in the lower panel, for each of these graphs is represented non-diabetic population, and higher panel is the diabetic population. So, if you take body mass index, that is obesity, as the this is for diabetic population, as the male population, male patients, they increase their weight, their risk of uh, coronary heart disease increases. But females, somehow they are not so much affected by increasing weight. And this is the lower panel is for the non-diabetic population. And you can see that, so in diabetic population, we should be more particular for male patients to reduce weight, because here probably their impact is lesser in females as compared to males. Systolic blood pressure, again, if you take diabetic population, they are this lower graph is for females, in diabetic population upper is for males. So systolic blood pressure has a greater effect on incidence of coronary heart disease as compared to male population. You can see the steepness of curve going up. In female and male population who are non-diabetic, again, the impact in the males is greater as compared to the female population. If you take cholesterols, again, you can see that in male population, in diabetics, the impact is much, much higher for development of coronary heart disease as compared to female population. So probably treating male dyslipidemia more aggressively is more correct as compared to the female dyslipidemia. And you can see that same thing is non-diabetic population also. As the total cholesterol increases, chances of coronary artery disease steeply increase, but in female population, it's not so steep. High density lipoproteins, they have high HDL cholesterol. It's having a protective effect, again, more for males particularly, and also more for females who are diabetic, but not in the non-diabetic population. Triglycerides impact is there, and both in diabetic and non-diabetic population, and both females as well as male. But the effect of fasting glucose, you can see both in diabetes here, they are non-diabetic population, but here you can see that in diabetic and as well in non-diabetic, as the glycemia worsen, the chances of having coronary artery disease also worsen. Now we discussed about the risk factors and how they are different in two genders, but their response of these risk factors to pharmacology may also be different. So when we treat hypertension in males and females, the diastolic blood pressure may be equally controlled in both, but in females, the woman represented in this solid line, and the gray line is for the males. You can see that in spite of treatment efforts, the control of systolic blood pressure is not adequate in female population. So response to antihypertensive therapy is poorer in females as compared to in males. Now coming to statin therapy. Now these are various trials which have been done, and in which female population, which is represented less, you can see the overall in all this, there's odd is 0.84, that is there's 16% reduction in MACE with statins in females in all these important studies. And when you compare it with the male population, the reduction in MACE was 25%, so 0.75, that is overall the statins appears to be more effective in reducing MACE occurrence in males as compared to females. This is again very important, that statin therapy probably gives better dividends in males as compared to females. And before reaching that conclusion, we must remember that in majority of these studies, representation of females is very poor. It's just 15 or 20%. So these may be statistically not very valid statement that females do not respond, because their representation in these studies have been very poor. Now, gender differences in management and outcome of patients with type 2 diabetes. And now this is again something very interesting. Now this study, which was published in 2018, this study looked into characteristics and outcomes of patients with type 2 diabetes and atherosclerotic vascular disease on basis of gender. Now, what they did, they took the TCOS population and they included both the sitagliptin group and the placebo group. And they found that there were some 4,000 plus women and 10,000 plus men in this. And they were followed for almost 4 years. And they saw what is happening to the cardiovascular diseases in men and also in women. Women were more likely to experience cerebrovascular and peripheral vascular disease and less likely to have coronary artery disease than in men. So in this particular cohort, again, a multi-centric, multinational study, and you find that there was preponderance of cerebrovascular and peripheral artery disease in females and coronary, they're more likely to experience cerebrovascular and peripheral vascular disease and less likely to develop coronary artery disease. The primary outcome, cardiovascular death, myocardial infarction, stroke, or hospitalization for unstable angina occurred. This was 4-point MACE, occurred in 9.7% in females and 12.3% in males. So again, story is same. That is, there is a male preponderance in the cardiovascular diseases. Women had lower risk of secondary cardiovascular outcome and all-cause mortality. Suppose a woman already had one event, cardiovascular event, and if you follow her, the chances of having another event is lesser as compared to male, and also the chances of having death after first episode is also
Sir,
less.
would you like to speed up, sir?
Yes. Women with type 2 diabetes have worse cardiovascular disease risk profile, but significantly fewer cardiovascular events in men as compared to type 2 diabetes. This is one more study in which our own Dr. Avdesh Kumar Singh has presented this, and this is a meta-analysis which included pooled data from CVOTs for SGLT2 and GLP-1 receptor agonists. Found that MACE reduction in GLP-1 receptor agonist was similar in both the sexes, that is, that was equally effective in reducing MACE in males and females. But the data from SGLT2 inhibitors on CV outcome was only significant in males. So this is very important statement. Whether these differences finding was related to inadequate statistical power, underrepresentation of women in CVOTs, or truly gender difference remains to be established. So they themselves doubted this data. But recently, very recently in 2020, the American Journal of American Heart Journal published these data, where what they did was there's a very large population. They actually fetched these data from the insurance company, type 2 diabetes subjects uncontrolled on metformin, and they divided according to the second line drug and screen for these patients for the MACE. You can see this line is for sulfonylurea. So there was slightly, these dotted lines are for females and these are males. So insignificant difference between but remember the sulfonylurea, the survival was the worst. If you take the blue lines, these are for DPP4 inhibitors. Again, there was some difference in, so females, there was better survival. But see the difference in the red line. This is the male and this is female. This is for GLP-1 receptor agonist. So greatest advantage for GLP-1 receptor agonist in the female population. And because these SGLT2 drugs, they were recently introduced, the follow-up was smaller, 5 to 6 years. Again, the females fared better than the males. So this is again an eye-opener that there's some difference in the drugs which we use for treating newer drugs in treating the diabetes in gender terms. And then we come to the prevention programs. Again, if you see the lifestyle changes, very regimented lifestyle changes, diet and exercise. The first year, there was males were better. If you take after 3 years, the results were better for males as compared to females. So for lifestyle changes, also the impact is probably better in males as compared to females. And there's one study from India also where the IGT or IFG pre-diabetes patients were initially given lifestyle changes and later on, if required, they were added metformin. Men had significant reduction of 37% in their progress to over diabetes, whereas women had non-significant reduction of 24%. So even lifestyle changes have some difference in the gender. So to summarize, the prevalence of cardiovascular disorders differ among the genders, men being at higher risk of CVD. Women have higher burden of CV risk factors, but the sex hormones reduce their influence in premenopausal years. Women-specific cardiovascular risk factors exist, such as PCOS, gestational hypertension and gestational diabetes mellitus. Men and women have different lipid profiles during the lifetime. Statins are less effective in reducing CVD in women. Presence of type 2 diabetes neutralizes or reverses the CVD advantage of the woman in the premenopausal age. So thank you very much. Over to Naren.